Hi, welcome to Dacian Regitus Lopi. Today I want to discuss about free speech. To do so, let's see what's the definition of it. Free speech is it's a concept that human invented so they can express their opinions without being persecuted about it. Where did it come from? It comes from Greece, ancient Greece, from city-state Athena, where in 6th century before Christ, they introduced it as the pillars of their society. First one was Isagoria, free speech, where people were gathering in assemblies and they were discussing ideas, debating ideas, how to solve problems, the problems of the city. The second one is Parrhesia, where was used mostly as a art. So in drama, in their acting, they could express ideas and mock other people. The concept of free speech evolved from the ancient Greek to ancient Romans, which adopted it for their need. It wasn't exactly similar. There was still persecution. You could still be punished if you were saying bad things about the government, but will give some rights to the citizens of Rome to express their opinion. After the Roman Empire, the freedom of speech staggered for a while. The next step happened in 1215 when Magna Carta was signed. On the background of King John of England was abusing his power with taxation and the imprisonment of people without judgment, the nobility from England revolted, creating a petition called Magna Carta, where he forced the king to sign it. Magna Carta wasn't a necessary right of freedom of speech, but introduced the right of law where the people weren't allowed to be punished and imprisonment without having a fair judgment. Magna Carta didn't live for a long time. After King John signed it, was a period of peace, a short one. By the end of the same year, he was starting to ignore the document and start going back to his old ways. After a prolonged period of time, the kings of England start to abuse their power more and more, culminating with King Charles I, when in 1628, were pressured by the war with France, he started to introduce enormous taxations and persecuting the people who didn't pay those taxes. At the time, the parliament put together the petition of rights, and with the promise of helping the king to win the war of France with France, he obliged him to sign the petition. As Magna Carta, it didn't specify the freedom of speech, but help the parliament to diminish the power of the king and try to consolidate more the rights of the people. From the original document, there were only four principles that still used in UK laws right now, and those are no taxation without the parliament approval, no imprisonment without cause, no quartering soldiers in private homes, no martial law in peacetime. As with Magna Carta, didn't live long. After Charles won the war with France, he quickly started to ignore the document and start to abuse his power again. This document paved the next step, which was Bill of Rights. The kings of England start to abuse their power more and more. It culminated with King James II. In 1689, Parliament reacted to these abuses, and with the success of a glorious revolution, put together the Bill of Rights. As before, this wasn't actually a freedom of speech, but it's the last brick in establishing the democracy in England. The Bill of Rights moved the power from the king to the parliament, and I could say a few of the principles that were included in that. No suspending or dispensing law without parliament approval, no taxation without parliament approval, free election, especially without royal interference, free speech in parliament without being persecuted for what they were saying. You had the right to petition the royal without being persecuted. The crown cannot interfere with justice and manipulate the court. There are many more, but these, I believe, they're most important and pave the future rights to speech. These principles still stands in UK Court of Justice. The next step in freedom of speech happened in 18th century, where two different approaches of it happened. One is the French perspective, and the other one is the American perspective. The version of French free speech emerged from Declaration of Rights of Man and of Citizenship in 1789, and give the citizens of France the freedom of speech within the boundary of the law. The American freedom of speech emerged from US Bill of Rights in 1781, especially with the First Amendment, where the freedom of speech it's given to the speaker, so they can express whatever they want, and is the government who has to prove that he's abusing that power. On a worldwide aspect of freedom of speech, the most known document is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, signed in 1948. These days, it's recognized by all of the countries, but there are different levels of implementation. In some countries, it's even censorship. Based on Global Expression Report website, there are 35 countries that score as freedom of speech, trend that dropped down from 2000 by 25%. On the other side, there are 45 countries that are in crisis of freedom of speech, trend that went up from 2000 by 50%. In my opinion, these numbers are a bit exaggerated, and the main reason is because when you put them in the political perspective, a lot of them they think the other side oppressed their right to speak. These days, freedom of speech is used mostly as a weapon for attacking the other side of the political views. My opinion about freedom of speech is that it started from the point of debating, trying to solve problems, try to listen to the other people, or trying to get to a similar conclusion and evolve to this age where it become a monologue. There are very few shows and very few content creators and moderators that are able to debate and try to solve problems in a way that fits everyone. The closest that I can see to be actually freedom to express freedom of speech, it's Piers Morgan, Uncensored. Even if I don't agree with him, how he moderates the show, but it's the only one that I've seen invited to parties, to different opinions, and they actually clash their ideas. It could get improved, in my opinion, to be able to get to the point where you come with a conclusion that solve a problem, not everyone going believing that he actually destroyed the other person. The reason why it becomes such a monologue, is because of the increase of technology. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but the moment you don't see your person that you speak with face to face, some elements of debating disappear, as fear of reaction, fear of hearing his opinions. You do not care how the other person is going to react. You're just believe that you're empowered in the moment. Another problem with the free speech right now is that most moderators and most content creators are cherry picking their questions, and they're cherry picking their debates, and they don't put it from the perspective. They only put it from their perspective, and that's it. They don't try to put themselves in the shoes of the other person or the other people that he's debating about. You could say that one way of dialogue right now, it's the campus debates that happens in America a lot, and in UK with what Charlie Kirk was doing. But my argument against it is that I never seen a debate, maybe there are, but I never seen a debate where he came out of it with an outcome that fits his principles and the person in front of him. He was trying to convert the people around it, or from he was debating, to his own belief, and this is not how, in my opinion, how freedom of speech should be used. I admire Charlie Kirk a lot, and I believe it's the biggest loss in the recent years, and I agree with most of his opinions, but to be able to use your free speech just to convert people, it's not the best outcome, because in the end you're trying to silence the opposition, not trying to come to a similar conclusion. That's where I think we should direct our focus. to try to solve problems that fits both sides, or at least amend problems from both sides, not just one side wins and the other one is suppressed. What history teaches is that at some point, if you try to silence the other side, over time there's going to be a revolution and the other side is going to take power. Happens almost in every civilization, and it happens across the whole human history. And if the right wing right now is trying just to silence and not to try to understand the other side, the left, is going to accelerate that revolution. How I see this happening, it's like if you imagine imagine a wheel of time where at some point you have the right wing suppressing the left, and the more you try to suppress it, the more the wheel is going to shrink. So in perspective of time, it's going to take less time to get to that revolution and swap positions, and it's going to happen over and over again if we don't try to understand each other and try to put solutions that fit both sides. The more you're going to try to understand the other side and try to find solution for to fit both left and right, the bigger the wheel is going to be, and the less time, the more time it's going to take for the changes of power. It's going to be a more steady transition from one to the other, not through a violent outcome that happens quick, short, and in some cases many losses. One example for what I just discussed is the health situation where you have, for example, in America, you have Obamacare, Biden care, or whatever they're called, where every person who comes in power trying to impose their own belief and their own perspectives, trying to destroy or diminish the effects that the other side put in place when they were in power. And they're not trying to solve a problem by sitting together, discussing, see what fits for one side, see what fits for the other one, and implement the solution. And that happens almost across the whole planet. A solution for and could be for everyone in the world. It will be have healthcare free for everyone, but behind it you have companies that provide it. What I mean by that, the hospital are free. You go in as a patient, you don't pay for the consultant over there, and you have some treatments in the hospital. Outside, you will have to pay for the medicine. But in those hospitals, the departments are owned by companies, and those companies bring their own medicine, their own specialists, their own way of treating people, and you could emphasize that they can do research based on the patients that they have, or they get some benefits from the data that they gather from the patients. And overall, those companies will gain some benefits from running those departments. Again, I'm spitballing ideas. I'm not expert in it, but if you put Trump and, let's say, Bernie Sanders, and speak about it, leaving aside their egos and trying to solve the problem, they're gonna find a solution that fits both left and right. Because in the end, if you give the people free healthcare, and if there are some corporation that winning on the back of it, don't think anyone is going to complain about a solution. Right now, as I said before, free speech is used as a weapon, and it's much easier to leave the problem unsolved and be able to use this in your attacks against the other side on the next elections, on the next debates, because if they fit the problem and fit both sides, then they are gonna have to find, like I said before, because the free speech is not used properly, and it's much easier to have the problem and to be able to speak about it and blame the other side whenever they can on the next election, next debate. They're not gonna fix it this way. They're not gonna try to fix it in any way. And these problems and the use of free speech, it's not gonna help anyone. It's just gonna make the hole between the sides bigger and bigger, because everyone is gonna pull in their own in their own way, and that this is not gonna help the civilization in the end. Another aspect of bad usage of free speech is cancel culture, where everyone that doesn't agree with you needs to be silenced. And again, emphasizing on the aspect that nobody right now, or most of the people, don't try to understand the others and try to close the gap between ideas, ideologies, and try to understand each other and try to be able to come up with solutions that fits not everyone, but most of us. Every side needs to compromise. That doesn't happen right now. It's everything or nothing. Where I see the most usage of cancel culture is with woke ideology, and it's another example where people don't try to understand each other and try to be reasonable and try to put themselves in the other shoes. I don't believe in woke as it stands right now, but on the contrary, my heart, I detest it, but I'm trying to understand their side and trying to be able to come with solutions, or try to get with solutions in my head. And to be able to do that, you'll need to have a civilized discussion with one or the other, to understand what is wrong in that culture, what's affecting the other people around it, and try to come to compromise. I understand that not all the time the solutions are going to be fitting for both sides, and there are going to be occasions when we're going to find solution on the left side, other occasions when the solution is going to be found on the right side. But right now we don't even try, and if we don't try, we'll end up, as I mentioned before, coming back to my analogy for the wheel, to a moment when there's going to be changes of power, quick and with rough events that is going to be affecting everyone. And I don't think that's how free speech should be used. I think it should be used to narrow the gap, to understand each other, to try to even if we have different opinions, to find solutions that fit both sides as much as you can, so you can evolve as a species further. In conclusion, I think the debate about free speech it's so wide and so and it's going to evolve over time and with different ideas. But I think the best options right now is to come back to the basic, to discuss, to use speech not as poison, instead using as a remedy to solve the gaps between the ideologies, to solve the problem between inside the society, to be able to not please, but to be able to digest every single part of our life in a better way, and to be able to solve some of the problems and move on to the next problem. As history told us, there's always going to be a next issue, always a next major crisis, major problem. But if we don't try to solve the one before, it's always going to smolder in the background, waiting to be lightened up again. And maybe next time it's going to be more violent, instead of trying to solve it and be able to move forward. If you like my haul, join the pack, subscribe, and give a like.